Welcome back. Continuous coverage continues here on Times Now. Rhea Chakraborty about to be arrested. In fact, has been already taken into custody. My colleagues Bhavtosh Singh joining us along with Tamal Saha, Mohit Sharma and Arun Neil as well as Siddhant. First to you, Bhavtosh. We understand that this is just a matter of time now. She will be taken for a medical examination. Although no clarity on whether she'll be kept in the office in a special lockup that has been prepared or will she be taken someplace else?
Well, sources in the NCB have said that all formalities will be followed. The family has already been informed that Rhea Chakraborty has been arrested and they can send the lawyer, she can speak to them. They have also said that her medical examination will be conducted. Probably she will spend the night at NCB office in Colaba, that's in the town area of Mumbai, and then it's expected that through video conferencing tomorrow she will be produced before the Chief Metropolitan Magistrate. NCB has made it very clear that they are not seeking her custodial interrogation, primarily because they have already questioned her for over 24 hours. And that they have her voluntary statement. There is no seizure to be made. She is not completing any chain of the accused, so her custodial interrogation is not required.
Right, just hold your thoughts. Ishtaran Bhandari also joining us. Athar advocate needs no introduction. Ishtaran, thank you for speaking to Times Now. Good evening. What do you make of this? Because on the back of the Times Now drug disclosure, Rhea has finally been arrested.
Firstly, I think all the people who were attacking anybody raising voice of justice for Sushant Singh Rajput, Times Now disclosure where I have been every day on the channel, need to now have a sense of introspection. They need to reflect and they need to apologize that they were dismissing all stories by Times Now as a media trial. Now we see a national investigative agency making an arrest in a case based on the law of the land. Even yesterday on your debate 9 p.m., he had somebody dismissing possession and usage of drugs as it's not a big deal. That is completely wrong and that stands established as completely wrong.
And while you are talking about that, Ishtaran, allow me to come in here. Look what Satish Mane Shinde, Rhea's lawyer Athar, has said, that this is travesty of justice, and I am reading from his statement. First statement from Team Rhea. 3 central agencies hounding a single woman just because she was in love with a drug addict. Team Rhea is now calling Sushant a drug addict. This is Satish Mane Shinde's statement, and was suffering from mental health issues for several years under the care of 5 leading psychiatrists in Mumbai who ended up committing suicide due to consumption of illegally administered medicines and used drugs. Slander spree continues.
It's very clear that Team Rhea, Satish Mane Shinde, who represents her lawyer, is doubling down on painting Sushant Singh Rajput as an alleged drug addict. This could be perhaps part of a legal strategy. Ishtaran Bhandari, this is pretty normal for a defense counsel, but given the high-profile nature of the case and the emotional quotient involved here, is it right for a lawyer to call somebody who's not here to defend himself a drug addict?
As you said rightfully, it is a strategy. And people have to understand, it's a despicable strategy, I would say.
Allow me to bring in Navita Kumar also. Navita, they have crossed all lines. Lakshman Rekha ko lang chuke hain wo.
I don't know. And Ishtaran Bhandari is joining us on this broadcast. Ishtaran Bhandari, when did this entire case really cross the lines of liberals versus bhakts? Because that's what it's all come down to at this point in time. Calling a deceased man a drug addict when his family, he himself, is not here to take his side, for a lawyer to come out and give a statement where he actually says, and I'm surprised, you're a lawyer too, where he says a drug addict who was suffering from mental health issues, a single woman has been today crucified just because she was in love with a drug addict and was suffering from mental health issues. I want to ask you, Ishtaran Bhandari, does law not give any defense to the victim? Does it only give defense to accused number 1? And can lawyers come out and make a pitch of a single woman in love with a drug addict when the drug addict happens to be the man who could have died due to homicide, not suicide as it was first stated by the police authorities in Mumbai.
Absolutely, Navika. And this is a gradual build-up to strategy. You have been covering it, but I will encapsulate in 1 minute. First, we had released WhatsApp chat by Rhea Chakraborty. Then we had Rhea's scripted PR movie production. I don't call it an interview. I call it a movie production in which she blamed the mother's mental health. Then she blamed the father. Then she blamed the sisters. And where she called Sushant Singh Rajput a druggie. That was the PR end of it. After that, she went to Bandra police station. That was the legal end of it. And now this, I think the family should take action on that. This is absolute blatant defamation, defamatory statements being made out against a person who can't defend himself, who can't explain himself because he is not there. And on the other hand, you see, they keep on calling Rhea's only fault is she loved him. You would never use such language against a person you love. You would call him you're calling him a drug addict as well as a mental health patient, and you're using worse words than a mental health patient, frankly speaking. So all this is a strategy playing out in which they are also playing the feminist card by saying she is a single woman. She is not a single woman because her brother, her father, lot of people have also been named in the FIR. And secondly, this feminist card country can see through, because I am telling you for a fact, I have data to back it. Almost 70% of people raising voice for justice are females in this case at the forefront of the movement. So these cards, these old tricks of changing its complexion into a liberal versus Bhak or a feminist card will fall flat, because a criminal is a criminal irrespective of gender, and a victim is a victim irrespective of gender. And these strategies will not play out. These NCB, you were attacked, Navika. I remember there's so many attacks on you for breaking drug chats. Any other society would appreciate drug information, drug chats in high places coming out so that can result to a cleanup. But here, anybody who exposes a lobby, be it Lutyens or be it Mumbai's Bollywood lobby, where you are doing all sort of nefarious activities, gets attacked. What were you showing? Drug chats? And yesterday night, we had people defending Bollywood using drugs. So that is the mindset one is facing in this nation. There are some people who will defend drug usage, who will defend party drugs.
Ishkaran Bhandari, I was attacked because I was breaching the privacy of people in the Lutyens circuit, whether in Mumbai or Delhi. It's come to be called a certain circuit of the high and mighty, the kissing in the air varieties, where I was stated that I was breaching the privacy. Do you think there is any privacy that is involved in a criminal case where there are questions being raised about a suicide versus a homicide, whether Sushant Singh Rajput was actually murdered or whether he committed suicide? There are so many facts that are coming out to the fore, but I was crucified because I was breaching privacy. Is there anything called privacy when certain chats, when certain issues that we uncovered here on Times Now were actual evidence that has led to the Narcotics Control Bureau being brought in by the Enforcement Directorate at a shoddy job that was done by the Mumbai police? You know, they were talking about breach of privacy, not breach of life, or the complete loss of life of one individual who was 34 years old and had his entire life in front of him?
Navika, nobody has the privacy to commit criminal offenses. And let us remember, there was no FIR, there was no ongoing criminal investigation when you picked up these stories. This was Mumbai police sleeping on it. When Rhea complains, Mumbai police does an FIR in a minute, 1 or 2 days. Right? We just saw that. But in this case,
2 days, a few hours. Her lawyer puts out the statement in the afternoon. In the evening, after the Narcotic Control Bureau lets her off at 6:30, she goes to the Bandra police station, stays there for the next 6 hours, and her complaint is jotted down. But when the brother-in-law of Sushant Singh Rajput complains, sends a WhatsApp message to the DCP of Bandra, he doesn't do anything because he's waiting for a written complaint.
That
even
is-
when there is a risk of life. And I want you, Ishkaran, stay with me. I want you to hear this statement that's been put on by Mr. Satish Maneshinde, advocate for Rhea Chakraborty. He says, travesty of justice, 3 central agencies hounding a single woman just because she was in love with a drug addict and was suffering from mental health issues for several years under the care of 5 leading psychiatrists in Mumbai, who ended up committing suicide due to consumption of illegally administered medicines and used drugs. I want to ask you, Mr. Maneshinde, before the matter comes up in courts, before the Supreme Court is told, before any court is told, before the CBI makes any arrest, before the Enforcement Directorate makes any arrest, has called it a complete suicide because of the consumption of illegally administered medicines and used drugs. Has he decided? Is Mr. Maneshinde allowed to be the judge and the jury in this case? Do evidence have no role to play? Do courts in this country have no role to play? No courts in Mumbai, no courts outside Mumbai, not even the Supreme Court, which prima facie felt that there should be an investigation in this case, and that investigation should be carried out by the CBI and not by the Mumbai police. Advocate Maneshinde can go ahead and be the jury in this entire case and say this was a suicide. Ishkaran Bhandari, I want to ask you, what is the legal position on this?
Navika, firstly, if they are so sure it's suicide, why don't they just go and get the FIR quashed from the courts? So they have built up 4 or 5 defenses in this case. One, the single woman defense, which I think is ridiculous. Second, that he was a drug addict. Third, that he was suffering from mental health. Fourth, that illegal drugs were given to him. Fifth, that he did suicide. Not one of them would stand up, because they have no substance to back all of these allegations they are making. And they're making these allegations in public space just for one reason, that is hounding of victim. That is character assassination of the victim and the family of the victim. And the funny part, or the strange part, is at the same time they keep repeating their defense that Rhea loved him. So what are they trying to say by all this? That is being exposed in front of the public. And I keep saying, if you are so sure it's a case of suicide, you have the best lawyers working for you. You should have filed a quashing. The Supreme Court prima facie believed there is something to be investigated. The Bihar police believed it. The CBI believed it. So all the agencies that matter, that is the law and the courts, they believe there is something to be investigated. By these slanderous statements, without orders of the court, without the investigative agencies supporting it, you are doing naked slander to save your client, and people can see through it.
Ishkaran Bhandari, I want to ask you, poor little single woman, supported by the Mumbai police, supported by the Maharashtra government, supported by the best lawyers, supported by so many people in Bollywood. You know, the Producers Guild comes out and puts out a statement, and everybody comes out in support that, you know, the industry is not bad. Did we have one single Producers Guild statement when Sushant Singh Rajput died? When there was in 45 minutes a declaration from the Mumbai police that it was a suicide? Did one organization of Bollywood come out and say that this is unfortunate and this should be investigated? Not one of them. All of them lost their voices. No camaraderie, no oneness, because every day there were questions being asked on nepotism. Well, nepotism doesn't leave any evidence. It is the drug chats that actually left the evidence trail. The money laundering chat, which is the investigation which is still going on. The possible murder, homicide, which is still under investigation. I want to ask you, why did the Bollywood camaraderie happen only when the drugs chats were touched? They happened, Ishkaran, because it's one big cozy club. Nobody wants anybody to say, क्योंकि ये सब तो होता है और ये सब चलता रहना चाहिए. Nobody came out for Sushant Singh Rajput, but they came out when the drug cartel was completely exposed in this case. Ishkaran, isn't that the smoking gun?
Navika, you have touched the raw, naked nerve of drug in this case. And that is why I have seen Bollywood people coming out saying, we do not know Rhea, we have never met Rhea, but Rhea is being hounded because they are protecting their own. Once this drug investigation started, we have had people coming out and speaking for Rhea. But for 60 days, we did not see anybody coming out and speaking for Sushant Singh Rajput. We heard their PR agents calling Sushant a chota mota actor, not a big actor. Their PR agents, I repeat. We have seen now all these Bollywood people coming out because they know how high the drug nexus runs. And now we will see their PR agents coming out and saying, why are central agencies investigating, hounding a single girl? Why are they investigating drugs? So basically, just to protect their own, now they will protect the habits of drug consumption, habit of drug procurement, habit of drug distribution. They will defend all that because they are very clear in their agenda.